Don't forget to like, subscribe and share the videos.
Hello friends, I'm Ganesh from Ganesh IAS Academy. We are here to discuss about a few topics that are very much current in the news. In that part, we have this model code of conduct being in news for quite some time now, because the election is around the corner. Being election year, model code of conduct is one of the very, very important topics that is coming into discussion, coming into the news. So let us try to throw some light on that, and let's try to understand what is this model code of conduct. Okay, see, this model code of conduct is, as the name suggests, it is a code of conduct for the political parties and the candidates. What do you mean by this code? A code of conduct is how the candidates, the political parties must conduct themselves while contesting the elections. How to conduct themselves, how to behave with the people. And this is a model code of conduct is because it's called as model code of conduct is because it is a model and it doesn't have any, it is to set as a standard. Right? Model is generally a standard. It must act as a standard. It must act as a benchmark. That's why it's called as model code of conduct. Fine. Is it a law? Is there any mention about this model code of conduct in the Constitution? If you ask this question to me, the answer is no. There is no mention about the model code of conduct in the Constitution, nor any election law such as the Representation of People's Act. Does not have any mention about this model code of conduct. Model code of conduct is basically a guidance to the political parties and candidates. It is a set of norms that was evolved with the consensus of the political parties. That much is there. There is no statutory backup. There is no legal or constitutional backup for this model code of conduct. Which means this model code of conduct is simply something that the political parties have agreed to comply with. And the responsibility for implementing the model code of conduct has been vested with the Election Commission. And the Election Commission is one which monitors whether the model code of conduct is abided by or not. Now, the Election Commission has been vested with the responsibility to implement the model code of conduct. That's fine, but do they have any authority? That is very questionable. In the UPSC exams, mains, IAS mains, there was a question asked, what do you mean by model code of conduct? And what if the political parties do not comply with the model code of conduct? What action can Election Commission take? Literally speaking, nothing. Practically speaking, nothing. Because the model code of conduct is just a code. It is a set of norms. It is not a law, right? It is not a law. It is not a constitutional provision. And therefore, one cannot expect the political parties to take it as a binding one. It is a moral responsibility of the political parties to accept the model code of conduct to be binding one. But there is no statutory binding. There is no legal binding. So it is left to the political parties to behave morally. To that extent, this model code of conduct is nothing but a paper tiger. It's a piece of paper, that's all. It has been left to the political parties to morally responsible to comply with or abide by the model code of conduct. And what is this model code of conduct talking about? See, the model code of conduct, first of all, model code of conduct will be applicable to three important elections during the general elections to Lok Sabha, general election to legislative assemblies, and the by-elections. Will they not be applicable during local body elections? No. That is another flaw. Make note of it. Let us complete. There is a demand that model code of conduct should be implied, must be made applicable to local body elections as well, but until now it has not been made. And what are the main features of the model code of conduct? When it comes to the model code of conduct, the general conduct, it is said that the political parties as well as the candidates comply with the constitutional standards and avoid what the constitution has prohibited them. For example, the political parties or the candidates must not aggravate the differences existing between two groups in order to garner the votes of one. Similarly, they should not impersonify, or they should not indulge in kind of defaming or demeaning the individuals or political parties. They should not indulge in hate speech. They should not indulge in corrupt practices, because the Constitution, Article 324, talks about corrupt. 326 talks about corrupt practices, as well as the Section 123 of Representation of People's Act deal with corrupt practices. Section 123 of RPA talks about corrupt practices. What are the corrupt practices? 123, Section 123 A, B, C. They talk about subsections. They talk about different aspects of the corrupt practices, and you should not indulge in corrupt practices as such. Similarly, the Supreme Court in many of its rulings also have talked about what constitutes corrupt practices, and the most important case is S.R. Bommai's. S.R. Bommai versus Union of India, S.R. Bommai and others versus Union of India case. So the political parties must not indulge in corrupt practices. They should not use the religious institutions, caste or communal feeling to secure the votes of people, and they should not try to bribe the voters. They should not intimidate the voters. They should not intimidate the other candidates. Right? They should not threaten, indulge in offensive practices, which also falls under the bracket of corrupt practices. They should not do all these things. The political party that is in power, see, for the political party that is in power, the ruling parties, it's very, very important, because when compared to the opposition parties, the ruling parties have more resources in their control. So they should not use the government machinery. They should not use the government authority to declare welfare programs during the elections. They should not declare welfare programs after the model code of conduct comes into force, and they should not try to woo the voters. See, now analysis will come to that a little later. And also, they should not use the government machinery for electioneering work. For example, the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister of any state, Prime Minister of India or Chief Minister of any state, they should not travel for political campaigning in their capacity as Chief Minister. They should travel only in their capacity as a leader of the political party, and all the expenses must be borne by the political party, and they should not use any of the government machinery except certain unavoidable aspects like the security protocols. Right? Except the security protocol is something different. That has to be, if it is given to opposition party leaders also, that will be intact. That will not affect the model code of conduct. But otherwise, for electioneering and political campaign, they are not supposed to use the government machinery. Similarly, they should not use their discretionary powers to give away grants or rewards to people, or anybody for that matter to garner their votes. So these aspects are mentioned for this is particularly given for the political party which is ruling. Coming to the analysis, is this model code of conduct effective? If you ask me if the model code of conduct is effective, it is like something better than nothing. It is something better than nothing, which means there is something called as model code of conduct. Will it be effective? Is it effective? No. The Election Commission has been left with the responsibility of implementing model code of conduct, but it's just a monitoring body. It has no authority to take action against any political party if they violate the model code of conduct, or if they did not comply with the model code of conduct. At the max they can do is they can postpone the election. That also, if only the issue becomes more. In the past they have done. We would have not forgotten Tanjavur elections were postponed because of the corrupt practices. Likewise, there are few occasions. But otherwise, do they really be able to take any stern action against the political parties? No, they don't have any power. Because the model code of conduct is not a law. It is not having a statutory backup. It does not define what is the law and how it must be complied, and what is violation of law and what will be the penalty for the violation. These four aspects are important for any body to take action against anybody who doesn't comply with any procedure or protocol. But with the model code of conduct, it is just a norm, it is a guideline. So there is no power for the election commission to take stern action against any political party or the candidate when they do not comply with the model code of conduct. Now, I would like to harp on one important point. When we talk about electoral reforms in India, there are three primary aspects to be focused. One is defining the position of the election commission. Now, when I say the position of the election commission, say there is a well-defined position for Supreme Court. Likewise, the election commission's position must be clearly defined. This is what the election commission is. This is what the structure of the election commission is. This is the number of election commissioners, and this is how they will be appointed. There should not be any political interference, and there should be a clear-cut definition of their independence and powers, right? Unless this power, the position of the election commission is clearly defined, constitutionally established, nothing is going to change. Similarly, the powers, functions and duties of the election commission must also be clearly defined. For example, what are the powers of the Supreme Court? What are the powers of the High Court? It is very clearly defined. Election Commission is equally an important body as much as the Supreme Court or High Courts are there, the judiciary are there, because this is the fulcrum. See, Election Commission is not part of Government of India. Election Commission is part of the government system. It is part of the constitutional scheme, but is not part of the Government of India. It is not a body relating to Government of India. It is a body that is instrumental in forming the Government of India. So their powers, functions and duties must be clearly defined. And the third is the most important. Giving the model code of conduct a statutory backup, making it a law, and the position of the election commission as well as the powers of the election commission must be defined in respect of the model code of conduct also. If only the electoral reforms are taken by this mode, elections in India could be much more free and fair. Thank you for watching. For more current affairs topic discussions, continue to watch and subscribe. Thank you very much.